Hello again, everyone. Welcome back. I hope your baking is going well. So we're at the tail end of bread week. It has been challenging, exhausting, but really, really delicious. And so I'm finishing up my last bread for the week, and I thought I would show you how it's done. It's a really easy braided bread, or twist bread, some people call it, and it would be perfect to impress your family and friends, and it's not as hard as you might think. So I already have the dough done, and it's been proving for about 2 hours, which they recommend an hour and a half to 2 hours, and I've rolled it out here into kind of a rectangle. It's okay if it's not perfect. And I am just going to spread 1/4 of a cup of butter across the surface here. So this is a cranberry pecan bread. The filling is done here. It's delicious. It's cranberries, pecans, sugar, vanilla, and the dough itself is so good. When it bakes into the bread, it has cinnamon in it, and it's just super warm and inviting. Like I said, this one's really easy to be able to do. So you want to make sure that your butter is soft enough. Mine is a little tough, but we're making it work. And once we get it covered with butter here, we're going to spread the filling evenly, and we're going to leave a slight border about 1/2 inch all the way around, because we're going to roll this. If you go right to the edge with filling, there's a chance that when you're rolling it, you're actually going to squeeze the filling out because there's so much. I have done that before with roulades as far as cakes, and I have learned that lesson. I'm just always trying to get as much filling in as possible. So a little bit more butter here. So as far as bread goes, I have learned a lot this week. I have learned the difference between different kinds of yeast and some different tricks of the trade that I think make bread easier for the every baker. So while I'm putting the filling on, which is here, and smells awesome, we'll talk about the two different kinds of yeast. So there's a dry yeast, an active dry yeast, which will probably look like this, and an instant yeast. So the only difference between them is this needs to be bloomed in water before you can use it, most of the time, unless the recipe tells you not to. This can be added right to your dry ingredients. Now, different kinds of recipes will call for different kinds. I made pretzels earlier in the week, and that needed the instant yeast, which was added right to the dough. But this bread, and I made a Parmesan pesto bread, use the dry active yeast, which most breads will use. They're pretty universal unless you're making a very specific kind. Another thing I learned, especially with the pretzels, is that when you're rolling dough out, if you notice it's starting to shrink back on you and it's seeming really elastic, if you let it rest for another 5 minutes and then go back to it, you're going to be able to roll it out a lot easier. What's happening is the gluten in the bread is getting tense, so to speak, and the more you work it, the more it's going to come back to you. So if you let it rest and then roll it out again, you're going to be able to go further, and you can do that as many times as you need. I definitely had to do that with the pretzels, with trying to roll them out and get them nice and long. And those pretzels turned out really good. That was from my baking book I got from Duff's shop in Charm City. Okay, so we're almost done. Now, once you have your filling in, it's gonna be really easy. We're gonna roll it up jelly roll style. So we're gonna roll it up like top to bottom or bottom to top, whichever you're most comfortable with. And you could do any kind of filling in this. What I really like about this base bread is that it's really flavorful on its own, and you could put, almost any kind of filling inside. You could do more of a cinnamon bun and do cinnamon on the inside with gooey brown sugar. That would be really good. You could substitute a different kind of fruit if you wanted, or nut. So that's usually my advice, is find a good base and then alter it from there. That's really what I love to do, even with cakes. Okay, so that is done here. So you're just gonna start from the end, and you're gonna roll as tightly as you can. You don't wanna pinch when you're actually rolling. You wanna more guide it away from yourself. There you go. And then you're gonna rotate it so that long ways is, it's running like this on the table. Take the ends, and I kind of like to, like you're gift wrapping something, fold them and pinch them so that you're keeping all of that good butter and filling inside. So it looks kind of like a little gift there, like that. Okay, now for the braided or twisted part, this is way easier than you think. All you need is a sharp knife, and you're gonna start about 1 inch from the top and cut straight down the center. And you'll start to see a peek of the beautiful layers, which is really exciting. And you're gonna cut all the way down through the end. You wanna make sure that you've gotten all the way through. This is why I'm doing it on a surface like this. Don't do this on your counter. And then you're gonna take each side and you're going to twist it so that your layer side is facing up. So you should see those beautiful layers of your cranberry and your nut mixture. Like that. And now all you have to do is twist it, overlap them, holding it. You do want to support the bread, and then keep your layers facing up as you twist it. And the tighter you twist it, then the more twist that you have. When you get to the end, kind of smoosh those ends together. I like to open it up a little at the top like that. So then you kind of have this braid here. As far as baking, a really cool trick I learned, and I use this with the Parmesan pesto bread too, is to get it to bake in a nice gorgeous ring. Of course, we're going to bring it around like this, tuck one end, your smaller end underneath, and bring it around so that it overlaps like that and it looks gorgeous. But what you want to have ready is just a regular sheet pan, and we're going to spray this with Pam. Your bread shouldn't stick, but this is just in case. This is just doesn't. Okay, and then you actually want to spray the ring of your springform pan. That is going to be the biggest part of this. Give this a spray, and we're actually going to lay the bread inside the ring so that it keeps its shape on the tray. And then just carefully lift your bread into the center. Let me tip this up here so you can see it. It's going to look something like that. And then this needs to rest for another 30 minutes. Once this rests, then you can put it in the oven at 350 about 40 minutes, or you want to wait until it's golden brown. You can even test it by putting a toothpick in just a bread part, and if it comes out nice and clean, then you know it's ready. So another misconception or two about bread is that you have to have a proving drawer. Not true. You don't have to have any fancy drawer or really any kind of materials. And proving just means you're letting the dough rest. So you can let the dough rest any warm, dry place that you have. Some people like to do the top of the fridge because it's warm, but if your dining room's warm like mine, you just want to cover the bread and let it sit undisturbed. Don't lift the cover and look at it, as tempting as it is to peek at it. Let it do its thing for the amount of time. And then when you're finished with it, you should be able to take that cover off, slightly punch it down, and it should be gorgeous, doubled or even tripled in size. The other tip that I learned through making bread this week is to get it out of the bowl easily once it's been proving and rising. What you want to do is actually brush the bowl with olive oil. Super, super thin, light coat. Put the bread in, turn it over so that the top has a little bit of olive oil on it as well. Cover it tightly with like a press and seal or saran wrap, and then it can sit. It comes right out of the bowl, nothing sticks. You get all of that gorgeous dough for your bread, and you are good to go. It also makes cleanup really easy. So I am going to let this rest for 30 minutes covered with a towel. Then I'm going to pop it in the oven, and when it comes out and it has cooled probably an hour or so, I am just going to drizzle some vanilla glaze over top, and then it will be done and ready to share. So bread can be done. It is time consuming, but it's definitely worth it. The smell that it fills your house with is awesome, and you don't need a bread maker. You just need your oven, your rolling pin, and a whole lot of flour. So I hope you guys have enjoyed learning how to do this. You can do it too. Experiment with flavors, and I would love to know what kind of things you try. Until then, I wish you very happy baking.